Hey RATBAGGERS, it's Jade today with a little quick starter guide for TECHTONICA. Now it's 1.0 on Xbox and PC, and for the first time on PlayStation 5. If you don't know what TECHTONICA is, it is a automation factory building game set in dank, dark caves filled with bioluminescent resources and more. You're tasked with ascending different levels as you progress through a big, quite complex lore and story. With the 1.0 update, there are a massive amount of changes, especially in the starter phases. And that's what we're going to be going through today, some top tips I've learned in about 6 hours of playing the new version, as well as some older ones that still held you in good stead. So if you do find this video useful, leave a like, check out the rest of my content, and let's go. I do recommend, if you're not used to playing factory or automation games, especially on consoles, there aren't that many around, you might want to put it on easy, as it will just give you a nice little boost in terms of getting advanced technologies a bit earlier. You can customise in the settings and more, but I'm not going to go through that today. It's more just about if you're starting a vanilla standard game. But just note the options are there. So there are loads of areas that you might not be able to access until later or until you've got the ability to dig through. Behind this plexiglass is an area we'll be coming here to loot in a while. But first off, pay attention to these boxes. They will appear as green little squares on your map. The map is fully 3D, so you get to see up, down, left and right, even from areas that seemingly are inaccessible. So when you notice a small green box that doesn't appear to be on a path, you may need to dig down or up. These are really useful for boosting and giving you resources as well as certain crafting machines early. TECHTONICA is now split by different levels and floors, which each floor offering a new kind of introduction into more technology or resources. Previously there would just be winding corridors or areas you'd have to explore, and so there was tons of these boxes everywhere, making it a bit harder to go and get them. Definitely don't try getting them until you get the mole, which is the basically driller, as you don't really want to be digging around for these boxes with just the hand pick. It can take some getting used to finding exactly where these boxes are, and said they can be really just buried in dirt, so it can be a bit hard to pinpoint. But they are worth it. They'll have either really good resources or sometimes more advanced crafting stations, drills and more. You've quickly realised you've learned how to dismantle items and technology. Well, make sure you use that on the boxes after you've discovered any resources in them, as then that way it removes it from the map. As you can see, the little green box is still highlighted. There's a few boxes you can't dismantle, but the majority you can, and yeah, it helps remove them off your map. The game is split into different levels, and this helps with overall story and progression. At some point, once you've given the right resources to Victor machine here, you'll basically gain access to the scanner. The scanner is really important for scanning lots of different items. This is really super obvious, you're going to learn this as you play the game, but it's really vital that you do scan every piece of old technology you come across, as often this will be how you unlock the ability to craft it yourself. I scanned all the pieces of the smelter, and now you can see it's available in my tech tree. But even when you've gone ahead and scanned the right amount of items you need to open up that technology, don't stop if you come across old remnants of it. You'll either gain resources or you'll gain the item to be able to be placed and used again. Just like this inserter here. I'm really pointing this out because at some stage you're going to get quests that will say you need to go and find something like make or craft 3 different water turbines. And maybe you're running around the first 3 floors, but you can't find the water turbines anywhere. That's because they're actually on the next level. This is where the game kinda does need to work better on really making it really clear where certain resources or schematics might be. What you're meant to do is keep making the drill bits that help dig up to the next floor to then unlock, and then you'll be able to find it. So if you really have scoured all around one particular level, but you can't find the technology you're looking for, chances are it's probably on the next one. So let's dive deeper, or maybe ascend higher, in talking about these levels and floors. These are some of the new things that were added as part 1.0. So if you've tried TECHTONICA previously, this is a big change. It's basically the evacuation port, and it will give you a lift that will take you up to different floors, and you have to provide it with the drill bits. There will be one of these on every single floor that you come across, obviously, and it's how you progress in the game. So the purple slots are strictly for the drill bits only. There are other slots and exhausts on the other side, and these will be for different resources. So you can absolutely set up your factory across multiple floors and then just have it teleport and basically transport gear and floor and resources to wherever you need it to go. So make sure you dig out or you find wherever this is. Normally it's the first one that is a bit more troublesome to find, although you just have to simply dig. You can see it on the map pretty easily. It will tell you what level you're on, it will tell you what level you're going to get to. The depth is how far it is from in between each levels, and then it will show you the progress underneath it. And then you've got all the different drill bits: yellow, purple, green, red, blue, orange and black. Obviously each one is going to dig more further, so you'll only have access to the yellow ones for a good while, and then eventually you'll be able to craft the purple ones, which will make this a lot quicker. But you will eventually need hundreds of these drill bits, or basically meters of digging, to be able to get to the next levels. So now this is one of two things that you always need to be crafting in the early parts of the game: getting as many drill bits crafted as possible, as well as research cores. You'll more than likely have come across some of the purple research cores while exploring the first stage, and in my opinion the game doesn't do a very good job of telling you this is really important to make sure you place these everywhere. You'll unlock a device called a composer pretty much within the first few hours that will make this a lot neater and tidier, but effectively you'll end up building big towers, so make sure you're putting these in a good amount of space where you can raise them pretty vertically. You won't be able to unlock new technology if you've got like 20 of these purple research cores just sitting in a chest on your inventory. They do need to be placed, and then you can go and see what you can actually buy. So they're more or less a currency. There's different tiers: blue, green and yellow, or gold I guess eventually. But honestly, you cannot get enough of the purple ones, and even after a while they'll still become useful. So that's a big tip as well. Don't panic about overcrafting stuff. Everything becomes useful. But these purple cores and the drill bits are your two main ways to really progress in the game. So no matter what else you've got going on, starting up a new factory, combining or crafting new components, or setting up something new, make sure that these two things are always being produced. As said, you're given some to play around with in the first stages of the game. You'll find them, but you'll pretty much be able to unlock and craft your own very soon. And you can go ahead and dismantle them as well as anything else, and not worry, you'll be able to place them again elsewhere. They'll just go in your inventory. Your inventory isn't limitless. Eventually you can get overweight and it just makes you slower. And if you are moving stuff around and you're going to have one central area for something like your research cores, then yeah, don't forget, just in case you put some in a chest momentarily. And that's how they both complement each other. You need to keep making the drill bits to ascend new levels, to gain access to new technology, and then once you've found that technology, the research cores are going to be how you go ahead and unlock it fully. Not every tech tree item needs to have remnants found for it to be unlocked. You simply will just be able to purchase it once you've got enough of the purple cores, but there are some things that you will have to only find on certain levels before you can unlock them with the purple cores and then craft and make them. There is one further thing that you might need to know about progression, and that's the terminal machines. They've got different names on each floor, but effectively these are going to give you tasks and quests to basically fulfill. So it wants maybe 20 iron ingots and 20 copper ingots, and then it will proceed to give you the next quest. Some technology is unlocked via this route as well. So if you've gone and scoured each floor, you seem to have found every green box, and you've gone and put the drill bits into the drill, but you do see some quests still popping up. Make sure you have gone and fulfilled everything you can at these terminals. And as I said earlier, sometimes though, when you do this, the quests that pop up, you won't be able to actually complete until you've gone to the next level. So I haven't even really spoke about the actual automation and the bulk of the game, and that's setting up circuits and stuff. And that's really important, to give yourself lots of space and lots of room to maneuver. In the early days, I wouldn't worry too much about having super clean lines and factories that are really efficient. You'll plenty of resources that you'll get relatively quick, so just make sure that you are producing. The basics of having your ore come out directly and then go straight into a smelter. I always like to try and have runoff boxes in between stuff like this, just in case there's any kind of discrepancy, or maybe I've run out of the fuel that powers a lot of these drills. You don't absolutely need these, but I do think they're handy to have a drop-off box like this. And effectively, instead of it just going directly from one machine to another, it always kind of goes through one of these boxes, because then you can use these boxes to divert some of these resources where it's going to be needed later. Truly though, there is no real need for just basic ores in any kind of crafting recipes. It all does need to be made into ingots before it's really useful. So this can be a little bit of overkill. The flip side though, if you run out of power in your actual smelter but your actual miners are still going, then that means they are not getting clogged up because the smelter's become full. But in the early days, it is absolutely fine to go ahead and just do things manually as well. You might have got yourself a ton of copper ore and then realise that you need to get more smelters down. Well, simply go ahead and place them and put the copper ore in yourself, rather than setting up even more elaborate maybe conveyor belts. And that's what you're doing basically for the first floor, just setting up the copper and the iron ingots. You then may need to craft things like conveyor belts to feed to the actual station, and then it should start unlocking things like the drill bits, which you can then feed to the basically freight elevator. The map does make it pretty obvious that you'll be able to find certain resources and loot in certain directions. Definitely pay attention to it. On this first level as well, there was a particular corner of some of the early caverns that you can explore, and by digging through the right spot, you'll gain access to that area behind the plexiglass. It should go without saying that whenever you get to a new floor, these are the areas that you want to explore first on your map, just to see what new technology or old technology you can scan. This one's particularly useful because this has basically a circuit building biofuel bricks, and these last a lot longer than some just the plant fuel that you'll get from just gathering some of the plants. So go ahead and make sure you check all of the smelters and any of the storage boxes here, and obviously scan any of the old tech, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up some extra resources and extra stuff. Eventually you might have maxed out your purple cores and you can't seem to progress any higher. They are separated. Them terminals are called Lima, Victor, X-Ray and Sierra. So just bear that in mind. Again, if you're struggling to find something or it's telling you to craft 50 of something that you cannot see anywhere, it simply might just be locked, hidden behind the next floors and the next terminals. There are lots of little places that you'll need to go and explore also to progress the story, and you'll come across lots of these. These will give you direct new technology, or at least upgrades to stuff you've already unlocked. But these places are also tricky because there are often smaller little yellow boxes hidden. This one's on the same Lima level, and I'm going to refer to each level from now on here as the correct level when we're talking about it. And if you go along the pipes along, you can see right at the top here we've got a yellow box. So make sure you're paying attention to your map when you're exploring new facilities to see if there's any hidden green boxes. And yes, I know they're yellow when you actually come across them. It kind of would be nice if they were just the same colour as they were on the map. This facility is how you unlock the mole, basically how you can dig through the earth quicker. And so if you're looking around sneakily in these crates, you will find a little walkway through, giving you access to more of the boxes. Some for sure are filled with just certain resources that you probably think, I could probably just crafted them, but really, honestly, some of them do give you a massive boost in special items. So it's absolutely always worth going and finding them. The ones in these facilities mightn't be the ones that you can't go ahead and dismantle boxes afterwards, so just bear that in mind as well. If you're rechecking your map later, that you're not getting confused and thinking that there's a bunch of boxes that you missed. One thing to note, when you're trying to progress via the floors, there is a kind of cooldown limit on how many of the drill bits you can provide yourself. In the early stages it's 5, so you do want to set up conveyor belts and just basically put the drill bits that you've maybe crafted into a storage box and have the storage box run some conveyor belts to the purple ports, and this way you won't have to worry or missing out on actually making progress. And don't get them purple ports confused with the other ports that run much larger size and amount on the other sides of the actual special freight elevators. Only the excavation ports, these are where the drill bits go in. There are 2, so you can provide 5 on each side, but yeah, set up your conveyor belts, go into your main hub or wherever it is, or box like I said, so that you're always making progress. Much later in the game you will access teleportation. This looks to be stuff that you'll come across in the early stages, but don't pay too much attention to it for now. But just obviously note that it's for you to teleport between places much easier later. You will find the first of these remnants on the next level, which is Victor. Here you'll have to deposit things like power cranks as well as basically seed growers, and doing so will reveal more locations for you to discover. I would say this is the best spot to start your beginner factory. For sure, utilise the iron and the copper from the floor below and make it run to the freight elevator. Otherwise there are deposits here as well, and this offers maybe the biggest space yet to go ahead and start building your first proper circuits. And FYI, again, it seems pretty obvious, but if you're looking for more ore deposits because you've absolutely maxed out how many drills you can get on one, then you can obviously look on the map and find deposits that way. They will be highlighted as usually yellow or red colours on your mini-map or the larger map. This one that I found on this level is a good example. After you've cleared out all the debris, you'll notice that the ore deposit is clear all around the sides. You can usually dig around the ore deposits, meaning you get more access and more drills able to place in it. They never run out as far as I know, or if they did, they never run out in my previous playthrough at least. So yeah, always dig out if you're going to be using a certain area to make sure you clear all around it, making it easier to put even more drills. By fully exploring each level before really even making progress with any of my factories or going ahead and mining, I was able to come up with a ton of resources, including lots of foundation and base building stuff. A lot of this you won't necessarily need, you can use just power floors, but these also generate power alongside them, so you can go ahead reasonably safe knowing that everything will be powered if you place it on one of these concrete floors. Every few minutes or so you're going to have to keep turning your cranks. You can unlock new technology that means if you place them in a row connected to each other, you only need to go ahead and crank one of these generators to basically give yourself power. So this is something you're going to have to just live with and make sure you go and turn on your power every few minutes until you get the water wheels. These will be items you won't be able to get though until you've got to level 4 in the Victor stage, as you need to scan 4 of the actual older parts of it. So once you're able to craft these, you basically set them up with your other generators either side and then a powered floor connecting them. Now the water wheels can be a bit tricky in working out exactly how much power they're generating. So you don't really want to connect too many of the actual cranks generators, as you might find that the power just isn't actually being generated enough. According to the wiki, and from what I remember when I placed these in early access, 2 of the water wheels would power 5 cranks on either side, effectively meaning you've got 10 cranks giving out the maximum amount of power, and you don't need to go ahead and crank them yourself anymore. You can place more than that, but you'll realise that the maximum charge starts to dip a little bit and you won't have as much. But at the end of the day, you are still generating extra power. It's just not that efficient. So until you can get a good supply of the water wheels, you can still go ahead and place a ton of cranks down, but I would definitely still work on that ratio of around 5 of the cranks either side of 2 water wheels together, and then obviously you'll have 10 of the cranks basically in the line. If you pay attention and look at the cranks, you can see if they're red, and obviously that means that's bad numbers. You want that to be yellow and green as much as possible. And because I did too many, you can see I'm only actually outputting around 65 kilowatts from these particular cranks. So paying attention to this kind of stuff is important if you're wondering why you're using so much stuff but don't seem to be generating as much power. It's also important that you have a battery storage floor as well. When you unlock the ability to use the freight up to level 3, this is where you can actually find a ton of the batteries. It's called storage, and this is where you definitely want to go once you're able to. There'll be lots of markers and lots of old tech to go and scan to help power in the future. You should see on your minimap or the map a large circular room with lots of green boxes on, and obviously this is where all the old batteries are. Scanning them is going to give you obviously the recipe for them, the blueprint, and then any of the older ones that you then scan afterwards, you'll get some of the resources needed to craft them. But you will notice some that you can't craft. These are usable, so you can use this as your power floor if you really want. Now, technically they're called accumulators, but I'm still going to call them batteries because that's what effectively they are. They will store up any excess energy, and then your systems will have to use that energy before they fully run out. There's definitely going to be moments where you've got peaks of power being used, so it might not seem like you need them, especially if you pretty much advance to the stage where you find the water wheels on the next floor and you've got them cranks and generators being powered consistently. But trust me, you do want to have one of these floors set up somewhere connected to your main part of your factory so that you don't have to worry about power suddenly shutting off. The storage floor has got some stuff to go and explore and do, but I wouldn't really make this your hub as it doesn't offer a lot of vertical height, and like I said, you do need a lot of that for certain things and just to make life easier building factories. The storage floor also has a special door that you won't be able to get into until you put a generator down and crank it, powering up the floor below obviously. There are definitely lots of locations you'll have to come back to, so you will be able to unlock beacons, and you can see some reminders in some of the menus, although I do find a lot of the menus quite confusing with so many. But this area is really good for getting lots of the plant boxes and just a ton more resources, as well as the freshers, which will be needed to basically make a lot of the plant life that you're now going to be growing into more useful resources. But still, definitely worth remembering that some of these places exist to come back with whatever's needed to gain access. Sometimes it might be just one component, sometimes it might be things like blast charges, and just basically it'll have more resources and story progression usually to help you. So if you see a building with a door, yeah, do make sure you try and think about opening it later with whatever is needed to gain access. When you get to a certain stage of the game, you'll get a new marker calling you back to this area of storage, and effectively it takes you down a secret lift revealing a laser tag arena. Now this is something they've added as maybe like a mini game to play with your friends. Sadly at the moment though, PlayStation doesn't have access to multiplayer due to some issues with certification and Sony. Hopefully that gets fixed in the future. I'm including this because I ended up getting stuck here and just really wondering what the hell I was doing. It did reveal more technology about the teleportation, and that's basically what we're doing here. It's captured the flag, a little mini arena that you should be able to play in theory with your friends as you get access to laser pistols. There are no enemies to go and kill in TECHTONICA. It is a peaceful game. But what ended up happening, this area left me kind of stuck. The elevator wouldn't go back up and I was a bit just perturbed about what I was meant to be doing. I couldn't really find anything in the menus to explain like how to get out of here, but I should have realised it's basically just powering up these teleportals, and you can see to get back to the floors that I was on before I may need more power. But if you happen to not have the resources on you, that might become a bit tougher if you can't craft any of the cranks. But the short answer is you can go ahead and click on the pause menu and click the respawn button. And that's actually a little hack. If you've dug all the way around the map looking for some of the smaller boxes or new facilities, if you want to make life quicker and easier, you can just simply teleport back to the hub location, effectively in front of one of the lifts for that floor. So once you've got everything you can get from the storage floor, and you've maybe started to think about trying to get to the hydro to access them water wheels, then like I said, try and make the Victor level, level 2, your main hub for now. Hopefully if you've been producing enough of the research cores, you should be able to now go ahead and unlock a bunch of the tech and blueprints. A few quick stuff, the assemblers are your crafting benches effectively. You always want to be using these rather than going ahead and craft anything in your own inventory. That's because you get double the amount of whatever you're crafting when it's done via the assembler. So always just have one of these with a runoff box, and you can go ahead and just manually deposit the resources needed to craft whatever it is, if it's a new machine or just more components. Like I said at the beginning, don't worry too much about overcrafting something, but then again there are always some things that you might not need. Like you might have accidentally set it up that you could craft lots of freshers, but you won't really need 100 of them. You can set it in the storage, in the settings, that basically it won't be able to craft that many, although it can still craft quite a large stack of items. So it might be worth playing around with your storage runoff box to your basically free assembler, just in case you are accidentally crafting too much. When you get enough of the research cores, make sure you buy the special core reassignment, which you find under the science tab. What this does, it means you can pretty much turn off the ability to craft or make something by turning off an item that used up some of your research cores, and then use them research cores to go ahead and buy something else. So if you like maybe 10 or 15 short of getting something really important and you've gone and unlocked a bunch of cosmetic stuff or lights, well you could always turn them off and reassign them so you can get that next upgrade quicker. It's definitely worth doing. Inserters are really important, especially the filter ones. These can really cause problems by just making life hard if you're not really clearing the right items into the right lines, especially when it comes to using freshers. Ores are relatively simple. You know what comes out of a smelter. Obviously it's going to be just either iron or copper, but the freshers you basically feed either kindle vine extract or some of the shiverthorn, and then you get two different resources out. These resources can then be utilised to make and craft more components, and you're going to need a ton of these as well. Particularly the shiverthorn extract, which is used to go ahead and make coolant so you can drill further and further without having it overheat. This is why it's so important to have inserters specifically for your freshers, outputting these to different storage units. Otherwise, when it comes to then maybe trying to organise these going into another fresher, the resources that you get in like the kindle vine seeds and then the kindle vine itself, then you'll have problems it being basically clogged up. Again, this is where runoff boxes come in handy until you can get a lot of the specific filter inserters. You will have to grow a lot of the crops to hopefully get some of them extracts, but don't overdo it. There definitely is a good ratio or balance to having enough of the feeders and then hopefully the freshers that are basically turning them crops into more useful stuff. Otherwise you'll just have a bunch of feeders that are empty because you haven't got enough seeds to fill them. You will be able to gain extra seeds eventually, but roughly 8 of these feeder boxes is more than enough for one thresher. As you can see, I've set it up here to add more of the seeds into these feeder boxes once they've gone through the thresher and obviously deposited the seeds back out. But even so, this is kind of overkill for the early stages of the game. As you can see, some of the feeder boxes just won't ever get the seeds because it takes so long for them to grow anyway and produce. You will need thousands upon thousands of copper and iron ingots, so never stop producing and start getting into the habit of having separate circuits. You basically want your copper and your iron going off into different directions, then going into an assembler, and your assembler's making that one component. So it's copper wire, and then your next assembler is going to be making maybe cogs. Try not to get in the habit of chopping and changing the recipes, which you can obviously do holding the triangle button or the Y button to go ahead and make something different, because you end up basically with just a mess of circuits. You've got plenty of space on this floor, that's why I recommend using it. You can set up multiple floors as well, and it makes life a lot easier now with all the concrete foundations and floor pieces. And don't forget, you can toggle and rotate a lot of pieces like the conveyor belts by pressing RB or R1 after you've placed it. Or when you're about to place it, press L1 or LB and you can choose what variant of conveyor belt it will be. Either vertical, fixed, horizontal, you get the idea. These are a bit more fiddly and you do then need to rotate them so they're coming out the right direction. But it will make your life so much easier than running up the conveyor belts, basically like slopes and stuff. You can never have enough conveyor belts, although you'll be able to get upgraded ones eventually. There's actually got a lot of uses for some of the slower, older ones because it means you're not overloading certain circuits and basically factories. And that is pretty much it for this little guide. It's a complex game, there's a lot going on in TECHTONICA, but hopefully this alleviates any concerns you've got about how to progress and basically gives you some top tips on what you should be doing first. I really enjoyed the game. I'm just trying to find enough time to make some dedicated guides and obviously get fresh brand new 1.0 gameplay. I did make a ton of older guides on my older bigger channel Jade PG, so go and check that out. Although some of them won't necessarily work as much anymore, they kind of still do. It's been spread out across the different floors now. But a lot of stuff like Lantium, how to find it, how to get it and stuff like that, or what you do with it and other things all work. So go and check out them. I'll probably leave a link to that playlist in the comment section down below. And hopefully I'll be making fresh ones. So until next time, RATBAGGERS, I'll catch you later.